How's it going, everyone? And welcome to another episode of No Excuses on VTWProductions.com and YouTube.com with your favorite show hosts, Still.
Benarian.
And Volosel, and we're here to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week. And since I managed to make it all the way through saying my bit without Fern stopping us and telling us we're starting the show again, I guess that means we must be operating today.
Yes, it's not on fire.
Yes. We heard about the sound levels last week, and we have attempted to address them. So please let us know, Sarah, or whoever, in the Discord chat if there is a shoe with the sound levels again, and we will continue to work on it. But we think we fixed it.
I think I've got it. It involved...
Well, 1 week anyway.
Yeah. Every time there's an update for OBS, an update for my sound drivers, graphics card, sometimes just for the sheer hell of it, Discord updates sometimes do it. It can just break everything entirely. So, that's fun. Anyway. So, on the show this week, and for a bulk of the week I will actually be talking about is, this. This is New World.
We skipped the shtick.
Do it.
If you'd like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw. You can join us in the Discord server, which you can get to by clicking on the link provided in the show description underneath the show archive once it's up on YouTube.
Yes, indeed. I just had to let people soak in the majesty that is character stuck in rock.
You're in it? You're like in it? Or
I am actually in the rock. Like, if I lay down flat... you can send your character prone. I am now completely inside the rock.
It's stealth mode.
It is stealth mode, except if I come to
it doesn't work
here...
on any kind of aggro.
No.
It's like Solid Snake in his cardboard box, except you have a rock.
Yeah, or sitting where moving up a little ways, I'm in the rock, except for the enormous feather in my hat. So... this is the game that everyone's been playing this week instead of actually doing some work.
Well, you say everyone's been playing, but that's only for a given value of playing.
Yes.
By playing, you mean looking at a number ticking down very slowly.
So, credit's where it's due. Amazon is trying. But
yeah, but they're also the richest company on Earth, so...
Yeah. So, they've got this big budget. They've got all the staff and the techs they could possibly want, but they're making the same mistakes that every other MMO developer stopped making like 10 years ago. The first being, they booted the game up with nowhere near enough servers.
Well, to be fair, nobody stopped making that mistake.
No, that's true. No one stopped making that mistake. They always undershoot how many people are going to actually play that game on launch.
Do they, though? I'm not convinced that they do. I think they know exactly what it's going to be like at launch. They know that they're only going to be in line with the expectations and are merely building their infrastructure for what the game will look like in X months' time.
Yeah.
So servers are expensive, and especially nowadays they are expensive, but that doesn't matter for Amazon because they have infinite money.
Amazon has all of the money, so they could be on temporary
it's not just
servers.
That they have all the money, they already have all of the infrastructure. That's the thing that I think is really absurd about this.
It's not just the server infrastructure that they're making the rookie mistakes on, but we'll come back to that later. So the problem is I've rolled up on an Australian server with a group of friends. They convinced me to join here before I went over and played it with some US friends.
I heard that there are a bunch of countries rolling on Australia, though.
Yeah, you got Singapore, the Pacific Isles, all of that is all in there as well. But
I heard that there are like some select other countries have found that they have abnormally good pings to Australia specifically, and have just decided that that's their server now.
Yeah, there's a few of the Australian servers which are dominated by other countries completely. This one, no, it's dominated by Australians and Kiwis. Actually, now that I think about it, everyone I regularly play with at the moment is a Kiwi. That's kind of worrying.
Well, it's not like most of them are allowed to leave their houses right now.
Yeah, you're in Jacintistan. So, now I just lost my train of thought. So yeah, day one. I actually tried to log into the game like about an hour after launch because I just gotten off work and figured, why the hell not? Yeah, I actually have a screenshot of what I encountered there. That was a queue of 25,000 people on one server. And this was only largely because during the beta, all the Australians and New Zealanders ultimately converged on one server and just kind of played there. So when that server
I've heard that there's actually a secondary reason that names are global.
Yes.
And people were logging onto servers as they came up to secure their name, regardless of whether they intended to try and play there. They would just try and create a character and keep the name.
Yep, there was also that. So, on one hand, you had everyone who's just trying to log on and claim their name. And on the other, everyone had decided they wanted to play on Utopia server. Because, I mean, they called the server Utopia. Of course it's going to attract crowds. If nothing else, for the opportunities to make puns. But, yeah, everyone tried to get onto that one server. The following day, they added a bunch more Australian servers, and yeah, a bunch of people moved over, including myself. A lot didn't. Last I checked, Utopia was still unplayable. So I'm not sure what's going on there, why people haven't just given up and moved to another server. I'm guessing in some cases because one of their friends got in, and now everyone, that entire friend circle wants to be on the one server. But, yeah.
Maybe a streamer's going there or something.
I wouldn't be a scrap surprised. There's a lot of streamers doing it. So the opportunity to troll a streamer is always a big draw. People say it's that people want to play on the same server as their favourite streamers, and yeah, there's some truth in that. There's more people who want to troll.
Well, especially considering from what I've heard, that's pretty much 95% of the gameplay taking place at this point on New World is trolling.
Yeah. So the whole game is based around the concept of territory control. When you start early on, you join one of three factions. You've got, I forget what they're actually called because they're all kind of grey paste. So you've got the purple team, you've got the orange team, and you've got the green team. When your faction controls a town, you get big boosts to crafting, gathering, a reduction on taxes paid to the controlling guild, so on, so on, so on. It's all benefits. So there's a constant struggle over who owns what town, and rather what territory. There's actually these three big ones up the top here, which are all endgame, and no one's really pushed into those yet. So this is what our map looks like now. You've got the greens down the bottom here, you've got the purple who are splitting the whole map in half because they're decks, and then the orange up the top. Every now and again you'll see them, let me see, you've got a battle actually coming here. What it basically means is everyone in the purple team is going to line up at one entrance to the city. I believe it's probably the green people who are attacking it, so they'll line up on the opposite side further down the road. And then as soon as the game says the war has begun, everyone just kind of crashes into each other and hits each other with sticks until one of the teams wins.
Doesn't really sound like the deepest gameplay when you phrase it like that.
No, it's not, because it's not. Previously, in the early days, the game was actually 24 complete, always online PvP, no matter where you were. Also, full loot. Nobody wants that game. Well, actually, that's not true. Some people do want that game.
Everybody plays RuneScape. So.
And even then, RuneScape's only got select areas where that's the case.
Gotta go take this guy out in the wildy and steal his rune skimmy.
Yeah, everyone's had that happen to them.
What does that even mean?
It means you're gonna take somebody in the PvP area where if they die, they drop their gear and steal his rune materials scimitar.
Yeah. That was kind of the... Well, actually, it kind of still is you find a new naive player who's got something shiny on them in RuneScape, and you take them out in the wilderness and beat them to a pulp. So thankfully they decided not to go with that, because that's only fun for about 5 minutes until you're on the losing end of the equation.
I don't know. Back when I was poking around at RuneScape, I had a whole lot of fun for at least like 10 minutes a day, just sitting there on the edge of the wildy sniping people.
Oh, you stayed on the edge though.
Oh, I was on the edge of the level 30 bracket. I could die the whole way back as soon as
Okay,
I
there you go. That's a
took
bit better.
hostile action because I was too high level to go snipe out the lobies. I had to wait till they got too deep and then go after them.
Go and eat them. So, yeah, I'm glad they stopped that because, yeah, while there is a market for it, it's not a huge one. They're just very
because
noisy.
it turns the entire game will turn into a griefing engine, and anybody who doesn't want to be griefed for their recreation will just disappear.
Yeah. So it's a good thing you brought up RuneScape because it's got a very similar loop to it. You go out in the world, you explore, you can do a few quests or whatever, but a bulk of it is going to be go out in the world, gather materials, craft your new gear, and repeat.
Is it just, can you punch cows?
Yes. Well, no.
Because that is the definitive RuneScape experience, is a new player dying, losing their starting equipment, and having to go punch cows to level up their strength and health.
Yeah, you don't need to do the cow punching bit. You can, however, hit cows with an enormous mallet. So there is that.
For any particular reason, or just because?
Just because. I mean, you get leather off them, but you also get leather off wolves. And now here we come to rookie mistake number 2. It's wolves. It's all wolves. There are wolves everywhere.
Oh, white mage tank.
And it's not like these are wolves with special properties or new unique moves. No. These are wolves with different names, and that's it.
Astro tank.
There are other enemies, like you've got a few zombies around the place, a couple of zombie pirates, you got Lynx, which is basically a wolf wearing a different hat. But yeah, anytime you're not in around some other specific landmark, it's wolves, and that's what you're going to be fighting. I'm not sure why they've done that.
You're just making the game sound like an entire game of Elwyn Forest.
Yeah. I mean, you do have people saying absolutely horrible things in chat, like Elwyn Forest. Yeah, the community is AIDS, by the way. Absolute cancer.
Have you noticed a particular reason for it, other than it's just...
Well, it's a PvP game.
Yeah, oh, okay.
Yeah, PvP games tend to attract a certain kind of person.
Well, I've heard that there's quite a lot of servers who have just devolved entirely into gangs camping lobbies, like 24/7. That's all that's taking place on some servers.
Yeah, and I guess the lobbies haven't figured out that you can actually turn off PvP mode.
Well, I mean, that's why it's lobbies, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
Well, PvP mode's off by default, so you walk in, you can only turn it on and off in a town. So if you get caught out in the wilderness and you're respawning in the wilderness, first and foremost, stop doing that and actually click the button to respawn in town.
Tricking people into being in PvP mode was an old World of Warcraft tradition.
Yeah, it was. And it was fun. You know, back in the day when we were children. Instead of, man-children. Alright, so, yeah. It does have some cool things, like your class is very open. Basically, you pick 2 weapons, and that's your class. Each weapon has 2 skill trees, and what just hit me? Zombie archer. 2 skill trees, each of which has 3 abilities in. Each. You can socket 3 abilities at a time. And that's
a worse version of Guild Wars 2, then.
Correct. So yeah, if you want a system that does that better, go play Guild Wars. Actually, just go play Guild Wars. It's better. Guild Wars 2 is great.
But you'll have to put up with Traherne for the first few levels.
Yeah, ignore Traherne. Get rid of him as quickly as possible, which means do not roll up a Sylvan, because otherwise you have double Traherne time. That was my mistake. Yeah, so that's your build. If you want a tank, you can just spec into Constitution and off you go. If you want to heal, you have a Life Staff, which is this one I'm using right now. That is your only healing weapon. It has its own stat, which you need to sink points into, which means if you want to heal, or if you want to be primarily a healer, enjoy not having any DPS.
Oh boy.
And it's also enjoy having one of the most boring solo rotations ever. I can do light attack, I can do heavy attack, and I can block, but I shouldn't be doing that because it's worthless. So
Your entire DPS rotation boils down to filler combo.
yes, because the life staff does not get any DPS abilities. You get a couple of healing abilities which do damage if they hit an enemy, but it's not much.
But yeah, well, from what I've seen, like I haven't investigated it very much, and because I've got no intention of playing it whatsoever, so I haven't investigated it a great deal. But from what I've seen of people who have put up footage of it, of them talking about, oh well, I tried this out or whatever. From what I've seen, it all boils down to like the entirety of combat seems to be spam click and then use your skills on cooldown.
Yes, that's about as complex as it gets. It is active combat, active time combat. It's not click and anything like that, which means if an enemy...
enemies all behave like MMO mobs, though.
Yes, they do.
So there's no need for active combat to be real. Like
No.
It might as well be a hotkey MMO because it makes no difference.
Yeah, so you can just stand around and go pew 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 at an enemy. If you see them winding up attack, you can block or you can dodge. Unless you're a tank, in which case you can't dodge because you're wearing heavy armor. But that's it. Just use your abilities on cooldown. There's no real strategy. Some classes, like if I switch to Ice Gauntlet here, get off me, you. I can synergize a few of my attacks. Like if I throw this thing up, this ice wall thingy, I can stand in it, and my basic attacks regenerate mana. That's about as complex as things get.
So, just out of curiosity, I went to Metacritic to see what the disparity in the reviews between critics and users is.
Oh, this should be interesting.
They've only got 3 critics to review it, and they average out to 80.1 or 80.5. So really high score for like you would think that's a pretty decent video game. User score 2.7.
An 80 for a AAA game is actually kind of bad. They haven't paid enough money to the Metacritic people, I guess.
I guess I haven't been paying much attention to Metacritic scores, so
that's a good
I'm still 10 years behind.
The thing is that when it comes to an MMO, there are certain things that don't matter as much as they would in a game which is supposed to deliver a cinematic experience, because as a player, you're looking at the proposition of sinking hundreds of hours into it. A reviewer knows that they're not sinking hundreds of hours into it because they're just reviewing it, and they look at it differently. So what I have heard about New World is that it's got really great sound design.
It does.
The sound direction is incredibly good. However, basking in the surround sound effects of what it sounds like to hit an axe against a tree up on the cliffside above a valley, while that may sound like perfect, you are only going to care about that for about 5 seconds if you're a player.
Oh yeah.
The reviewer will care about that for a lot.
Sound design is important in that bad sound design will ruin a game. But excellent sound design will only go so far.
But it will get you a 10 out of 10 in a reviewer sound category.
It will. Like, the game has excellent sound design. Like I was just mining then, if I actually had the sound being piped into the show stream, you'd actually hear it, and if you cranked it right up, you could hear the pickaxe impact echoing off the mountains. So they've put a lot of detail in it. If there's someone wheeling a hammer around, you can always tell, because if they use the thunderclap ability, the whole area around them just echoes. It's actually really good. Same with someone using a rifle. But yeah, a great sound design does not carry a game. It enhances, yes, but does not carry it. So I think really what you've got to do is, if you want to play this game, you've got to pick one of 2 paths. You can either go the PvP path and just focus on taking towns and controlling territory and doing all that side of things. Or you go the crafting route, which is go around, gather up materials, and just craft new stuff to sell and become a bajillionaire. I actually don't mind doing that, because going around and crafting is it's fairly relaxing. There's not a whole lot of pressure. You'll get attacked by a couple of mobs here and there. Or if you want to look at something other than wolves, you can go. You do something other than skinning. When did I get this? I'm going to equip that. That's actually quite a decent hat. How does it look? This. Okay, it's basically the same hat. Yeah, so that's really your two paths. There is a story, and there is a story quest you can do. You can do dungeons. I could not, actually, before until now.
When you say it has a story, I mean, it could have a story, or it could, with, a certain amount of connotation attached to that word, with the word that might apply to, say, World of Warcraft, or it could have a story with the connotation that applies to Final Fantasy, or it could have a story that applies to RuneScape. Like
this, I'm feeling is the RuneScape story.
Yeah, so the story is there so that you can say that technically there's a story.
Yeah, it exists. Like, it's something magical island where nothing ever dies, but there's a potential chance of everything to come back wrong. Something corruption, something chosen one, or whatever it was. You actually basically make yourself the chosen one.
So basically what you're saying is that the story will never be a driving motivation for anything.
No. It exists. And that's about all you can say about it. It exists and it is there.
Yeah, well, the thing is that if the story basically comes in two varieties: the type of story that is there and the type of story that is designed to motivate you to play.
Yeah, and this one is definitely not the second. Where am I supposed to be going?
Story you get poetics through while Gaius von Belsar goes Super Saiyan.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he un-Super Saiyan, so.
So yeah, the story just exists. There are dungeons. I wanted to actually have done the first dungeon by the time the show went to air, which tangents nicely into the next bit I want to talk about, and that is the bugs. Delicious bugs.
Yeah. I said before that the mobs behave just like MMO mobs and don't do anything interesting, but they do one thing interesting, which I've seen, is that they will engage in very strange behavior as a result of AOI bugs.
Yeah, like I've had a mob which I'd aggroed, but I was maybe 3 feet away from its tether point. And it decided that, for some whatever reason, it didn't want to talk to me. So it would aggro on me, take a step, and then just de-aggro and return to its tether, and it would just bounce back and forth.
Yeah, that sort of thing is suggestive of we don't know what we're doing with MMOs.
Yeah. Oop, and I'm starting to get a bit of lag.
I could have sworn that the guy in charge was the guy that made EverQuest, so he should know at least something about MMOs.
To be fair, he hasn't been out of the MMO industry for 15 years.
I don't know what he was doing in the meantime.
Yeah, fair shake to him. He did make EverQuest, and EverQuest was great for the time. But the genre's kind of evolved since then.
You say it was great for the time, but it was also the only game in town.
It was also, basically the only game in town. There was Ultima, if you wanted to deal with Richard Garrett. Yeah, that was his whole own thing as well.
Lord British is a fickle god.
Yes, but he is one who will grandly appear on a stage without any sort of admin protections. True story, he actually did that. He had an in-game appearance on a big stage, but he did not. He didn't have God mode turned on.
Toggle invulnerability on.
So the predictable thing happened. He got spawn camped. No, it's whips now. Thank you, Fortnite, for giving us that.
Not anymore. That you can't do that at events anymore.
They just turned off all emotes completely.
Yeah, they just said no.
Because whips are racist.
I mean, they were cracking whips at Martin Luther King. I mean,
well, it's the only thing they had at their disposal. They disabled all the other emotes. It's not their fault.
Not the player's fault. It's partly the player's fault. But
well, I mean, it's the Fortnite community. I mean, what are you expecting, really?
What do you expect? It's average age of 12.
If that.
if that. Anyway, bugs. So yeah, there's been that pathing error where sometimes a mob will just randomly deseek, and they do the usual MMO thing, whereas once they dump aggro off you, they turn invulnerable and return, which means you end up with mobs that are unkillable. It turns out I don't think this game plays particularly nice with VPNs, but only sometimes. Like usually when I'm on the internet, my VPN is set up just to turn it on and forget it. It's running in the background. It syncs me up to Brisbane where my connection goes anyway. So it's just kind of there until I want to watch something on Crunchyroll, which for some reason is region locked. Crunchyroll, stop being terrible. Which
They
reminds me
only
of
know
something
how
else.
to be terrible, though.
They don't.
They only know how to be terrible. Terrible is all that they do.
Terrible is all that they do. So yeah, I had this interesting thing. Where was it? It was actually one of the main story quests where, in particular, it gives you the ability to go and farm rifts or whatever these things are. Corrupted monoliths. There you go. Corrupted portals, all that sort of stuff. You need to make a stick to do it. And to do that, you need to kill, or go out and get 3 parts, and the third part involves killing a forged demon in an old ruined building. For some reason, every time I stepped into said ruined building, the game would lose track of my character. Like, I could tag the mob, and he would attack me and fight me as normal. I'd do no damage to him, though, because every other attack would come up as invulnerable. And if he died because another player came in, or even if I managed to solo him, eventually, I get no credit for the kill.
I see.
Turned off the VPN. It still didn't completely fix it. I stopped my character randomly jiggling about in the building, at least. I ended up having to kite him outside and onto the very edge of his tether region. Because if you take him too far out of the building, he just runs back in.
I gotta say, what you're describing does not sound much like the ideal game experience.
No. It is... I mean, it's going to appeal to some people, either the crafting or the PvP side of things. I'd rather be playing something else, honestly. I don't mind going and wandering around and crafting a bit, but yeah, I haven't tried the dungeons, though, because of that bug. You need to actually do that story quest in order to unlock the first dungeon. From reports and from watching other people do it, there's some fun stuff to be had in the dungeons, especially if you're going completely blind. There's a few puzzles here and there to solve, and interesting enemy pools and stuff like that, which are fun for the first time until on the second run you just pop up a guide as a reminder and away you go. I admit sometimes guides do feel like they've sucked the fun out of MMOs.
I feel like there's an additional dimension to that, though, in that because guides are a thing, they can make fights ridiculously intricate.
Yeah.
And just raise the challenge level that much more.
Yeah, and then rely on the players to communicate among themselves on the best way to solve it.
If guides were never a thing, we would never have any fights more complicated than Ragnaros.
Yeah.
It also is just the nature of information spreading more easily as the internet came into its own.
Yeah.
Because back in, even as far back as the early days of WoW, that late into the internet's life cycle, you still would meet most of the players in WoW, and they had not gone to look up how to do whatever the top tier optimization was. That information just wasn't spread around.
Oh, come on. Remember, we did Leviathan the other day. And no one knew to go and press the button at the back.
Those are fat baddies.
They were just fat baddies, and in your case, it was because you got the timing wrong.
Yeah, I knew to push the button. I just thought you had to push it.
You were pushing the button after we were already doomed.
Yeah. Why did it work? Why did it work? Oh, we're dead.
I was thinking he might juke us out because he dives down and then he does the vertical dive sometimes. But I looked it up afterwards and that's on a timer. So it's just a factor of DPS. He goes and does the AoE attack at a percentage of health. So that one time we saw it the first time was not him juking us out. It was just the timer came up.
Yeah.
So
there was
no reason to delay the button push.
Because half the group was not doing any DPS.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll play it long enough at least to try out the dungeons. And see how I feel after that point.
Is this like you going through what I went through in New Genesis?
Just go down the list, tick all the boxes, and then figure it out from there.
Like knowing full well this is going to be a trash experience, and doing it just to say you did it so you could talk about it without sounding like an idiot?
Yeah, in part. I did have two group of friends actually con me into playing the game. I might just tell them, both groups, that no, you're wrong, I'm leaving. But yeah. Oh, speaker one. There's... Oh dear. I'll actually share a screenshot I took earlier on in the game, which is another bug. It was actually a very funny bug, though. Let me see. Paste that in there. Oops, hang on. No, I just got to actually go and find it again. It's the wrong image. Let me see. So yeah, there's been all sorts of fun bugs. Some have been less fun than others. Others are just like, what? Let me see. It's up. Here we go. I'm just going to place that in the live show chat. For those who do not know, my character rendered weird at one point. I have hat hair. As in, my hair is suddenly my hat.
No, it's like your head is suddenly your hair.
Also that. But yeah, I was wearing a similar hat actually to this, a tricorn hat. But, yeah. The game interpreted that in a weird way. So yeah, I mean, credit where it's due. It's for a first entry of a company into a MMO. It's fine. It's like, it shows its money in a lot of ways, largely in relation to how pretty the game can be. On that topic, by the way,
when you said it's fine, the way I heard that was Fluttershy complimenting Rarity's first attempt to make a dress. It's like,
dear.
it's nice.
It's nice. I mean,
No, it's not. It's like that. There's no way I'm going to come right out and say that it's a complete pile of trash, but I don't like it.
Yeah, like that. Like I said, there is stuff I do like about it, which is why it just gets it's fine.
I'm thinking of the dog with the house on fire meme.
Yeah, this is fine.
This is fine, dog.
Although, to be fair, after playing Final Fantasy, I'm feeling a bit spoiled.
Yeah, that's really what you can use to sort of throw the whole experience into sharp relief. Really, is the simple fact that it is not releasing into the market where nobody has played an MMO before, and that nobody has encountered these problems before, and that nobody has seen these problems solved by somebody else before. Like, they're not living in that world anymore. I'm sorry. They need to come to the party entering at the top level if they want to compete at the top level. That's all there is to it.
Oh, which reminds me, another rookie mistake that pops up in the dungeon, actually. Enemies have elemental resistances. And you have weapons. The Fire Staff, the Ice Gauntlet, and the Life Staff all do elemental damage.
There is one thing I think can redeem that a little bit. And that's if you are if they have managed to accomplish what they seem to be going for, which is that you are building a extremely player driven economy where you basically want to have a market for all different types of elemental things, because people need different tools for different purposes.
Yep.
And so you need to keep a live market. If everybody can just get their best in slot for all situations and then never buy anything anymore, then it will die on the vine. I suppose that the logic that they're using is like in World of Warcraft, where you did have elements being very important. It would cause people to seek out multiple different types of gear, and so there was this market for gear with shadow resist, gear with frost resist, gear with fire resist, etc., a very live market for that, because they were tools that people needed to have.
Yeah, I remember the fire resist grind in Vanilla WoW, whenever you wanted to do Molten Core particularly, but you'd also do another one if you wanted to do what was it, the next one after
Oh, you had to do it for all vanilla raids. You had to get Frost for Nax if you wanted to do
Yep.
Kale and Saffron. You had to get Nature if you wanted to have your guild to have a shot at Huhuran. And you needed Fire Res on at least your tanks and a little bit on your raid to do Molten Core.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying through all of that is that you are just broadening the number of necessary items required to operate in this world. And when the world is so strongly hitched to the economy, as it seems like they're trying to build here, it kind of does make sense to leave elements in so that a person can not just be best in slot for everything that they might try and do.
Yeah, like it makes perfect sense from that end of things. But on just a casual player point of view, it's like you reach a boss. You've been using your fire staff the entire time. This boss is suddenly immune to fire. Now what? Well, you're going to have to go out and level up an ice gauntlet.
Oh, so you have to level up.
That's the other thing.
Things as separate.
So
okay, so equipment isn't equipment at all, really.
It is and it isn't. So I'll pop this up actually here. This is my overall level down the corner here, and that's just general character level, which gives you attribute points.
Because I was thinking it was in terms of, oh, well, it's a staff, and it might be a fire staff or it might be an ice staff, but it's still a staff.
Nope. It is. There is actually your 3 magic weapons, your fire staff, life staff, ice gauntlet. Each has its own level, up to 20, and it each has its 2 talent trees. So you can customize your build a bit. I don't think the actual meta builds have really popped up yet, but I don't know, give it another week. So yeah, over here I've actually played a bit with the Warhammer and got a few spells in there, got a couple of abilities there. If I wanted to flick over and use the Great Axe, it plays very similar in a lot of ways. But I need to start from scratch. Life Staff, I'm using that at the moment. It operates almost identical to the Fire Staff, except it does healing abilities instead of, fireballs. But again, start from scratch. There's no overlap. So if you run into an elemental resist boss, you need to either have already leveled up a second choice weapon, or you're going to have to just abort and go and do that.
But I expect every man and his dog is running the sodding life staff.
Oh yeah, they are. Just about everyone's running around life staff as a second.
So basically, functionally, everybody only has one weapon because you need one of these particular weapons for self-sustain.
Yes.
That's an incredibly idiotic design decision.
Yeah. If you want to main in the life staff, you can't main really in anything else, because if I go into attributes, here we are. Each attribute has its weapons and effects, and it shows you here, like strength is sword, axe, hammer, hatchet, spear. Dex does all of those as well. Well, actually it does the light ones. Intelligence does the staff, fire staff, ice gauntlet, rapier, musket. Focus, life staff. That's it. So, yeah.
What are they thinking? Did nobody test this?
Nope. So yeah, you do get a few points per level, so you can spread it out, but if you want to be the best healer, you're going to go focus all the way. And, yeah. There are a few gems, which I found you can socket into your weapons, that say, convert elemental damage into a different element, or convert your damage into a different element. And it says damage scales off whatever stat, so in this case, focus. It doesn't say whether it's just the portion that gets converted scales off focus, or if it's the weapon itself. Because there's a big difference between those two. Like, if you have a strength weapon that's suddenly scaling off focus, then you can do all kinds of builds with it. You're not so pigeonholed anymore. If it's only that portion, then it's a nice extra thing to have. Yeah.
It really sounds like they've clowned a lot of things up, and not for a good reason.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a very pretty game, for the most part. It's, well, the first, 10 seconds of combat in the tutorial is very cinematic, until it devolves into people whacking people with sticks, because it does this whole quick time event cutscene where you're fighting off a skeleton. And that's how it introduces your light, heavy, attack, and block commands. Then after that, it's just hit each other with sticks.
But they had a beta.
They did. Multiple.
What happened during beta? Did they not get any feedback? Did everybody pretend it was a demo?
Well, thankfully, they changed the biggest thing, which was the full loop PvP. And they actually implemented a storyline, which it didn't have originally. Oh, it's a very good one.
It just seems like that all of these problems are like elementary stuff that should have been dealt with already long ago.
Yeah. It's stuff that other companies have learned and other MMO developers have learned over the years and adapted to. Like what works, what doesn't, what people enjoy, what people don't. I'm going to make some potatoes because I can. Random tangent. So yeah, it's not just limited to things like that. There are other bits and pieces. Like the main quest. I'll pop the map up. I think it adapts to a degree depending on your start location, which is randomized, by the way. So enjoy that.
Like it's at a random starting location or at a random location?
Random starting location.
Okay, so they aren't just going to drop you in the middle of a hellhole filled with zombies or something.
Well, they do, but it's a scripted one.
Right.
So let me see. I should be able to see it on the map. The one on the first line? No, it was over here. I haven't explored this area properly, so it might not filled in. So you start. Let me see. In this settlement, you start kind of here. For some reason, there's a shipwreck all the way up the river. Where was that? Kind of in here somewhere, if I recall. Yeah, incidentally. So all of them are basically like there's a massive shipwreck. There's zombies everywhere. Basically, fight your way out. Talk to a dude once you get out there, and he'll send you on do some basic fetch quests. Basically, they're all laid out more or less the same, but there's just 4 of them, and it's random as to which one you get. There's really no need for that, except to spread out the population at day 1. What other things?
This seems like it's not really in your best interest to make it hard for you to play with your friends.
Yeah. The main quest...
Why would you do that?
Yeah. So you do a few quests around whatever starting settlement you end up in. For me, it was kind of... Where was it? Over there, anyway. And then you come to the main story, who will tell you there's this dude, weird old dude who knows about this corruption-y stuff. He's here. The nearest towns are here and over there. Which means, if you need to hand in any part of the main quest, you need to go to one of these towns and then hoof it back there, or pay a limited resource to fast travel there. And then say that same resource to travel away.
It's important to be fit.
Yeah. So, and you'll need to do this over and over again. He is actually standing on the pier over there, by the way, because it's a fishing spot and there's loads of players around him. But they've only animated him briefly. So you'll talk to him, he'll kind of turn to you and he'll shift a little bit and start talking. And then he locks up. So the only part about him moving is his mouth. And he will stand there and he will talk for about 5 minutes like that sometimes. There's little things like that. Like when your game starts to look really nice and really polished, it's small things like that stand out even more.
There doesn't seem to be a lot to... I mean, I guess... they've beaten their previous score, which is we haven't managed to release a game.
Yeah.
Like, because mostly Amazon doesn't release games. They screw up horribly in development and the project gets cancelled.
Something terrible happens usually, yes. So, I mean, yes, you've launched a game. Now, make it good. I'm just going to pick away at this during the show. Oh, right. The other big... controversy with this game is during the main betas, they found a bug which was bricking high-end video cards. Now they said they fixed that. No.
Well, we had a discussion about this before the show.
Yeah.
Ari and Ava and I, and they figured out some other stuff about that phenomenon.
Yeah.
Is Ari there?
Yeah,
Because
I'm
I
here.
don't remember exactly. I was doing something else at the time, so I don't remember the.
So I actually dropped it in the show host board in the news section. It
Yeah.
was specifically, it was a driver update that started bricking it. It wasn't exactly New World's fault, and New World isn't the only game triggering it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the NVIDIA GTX 30 series with the EVGA brand. The driver they rolled out just had a problem with unlocked frame rate that would cause the frame rate to spike to like a gajillion and have your graphics card GPU have a hernia and brick itself.
Unpleasant. So yeah, I'm
so
on
that one. It looked a lot like it was on New World's problem, New World's side that was causing the issue. But in the final event, it looks more like it was almost coincidental that just so happened that because it was new, tons and tons of people were playing it at the time, and this vulnerability became very obvious.
Yeah. I'm on an AMD card. It has caused my card to cough and die a couple of times, but I mean, it does that anyway, so.
Well, yeah, I don't think that we can use Fern's hardware as the standard of performance because
Yeah, please don't.
you have hardware issues.
Yeah, I'm waiting until the Cyber Monday sales, and then I'm going to see if I can replace it then.
If they even have them, the stock will be sold out immediately if they do the sales because it's already sold out now.
Yeah.
That's the problem right now is the supply just ain't there.
The supply is slowly coming back. Very slowly. And
It's not in the US.
It is here at least, thankfully. But you're starting to see the prices come down. Very slowly. But it's starting to get to a point where a card might be affordable on discount. So yeah, I picked the absolute worst time to have this issue with my card.
Yeah, you couldn't get a new graphics card if you wanted to.
Yeah.
But it sounds like your box is ready to just be rebuilt.
The rebuild has already happened. This is just the card now. Incidentally, I did move it all over to a new case, like I said last week. So that case was actually the final component of my old computer. That and the old optical drive, which I mostly use as an overflow anyway. So, if it dies, it doesn't matter. Yeah, hopefully I'll be able to find a graphics card and finally solve that problem. I've been putting up with it for almost 2 years.
Yeah, it's quite the shoe. It limits our options for what we could do. Tried to play Minecraft on the show, bricked the show, had to restart. Tried to play Final Fantasy, broke again.
Yeah. And AMD is absolutely worthless in supporting the problem. Because they don't know anything as to why it happens. So that's been fun. So yeah, do not buy a RX 5700, kids. They die. They're awful. And I don't think you can actually buy them anyway because they're currently sold out. Because after the 3060s sold out, people went there. Beyond all that, I'm going to end my week, I think, because you get to enjoy whatever it is I'm doing in New World. I'm just going to peel
Finally raining in Eastern Lenoska.
What?
I've been sitting here waiting for it to start raining in Eastern Lenoska.
Okay. Oh, right, for the fish.
Yes.
You and your fish.
Alrighty, I think I'm primarily going to grind my engineering skill, so. Yeah, engineering is a very broad skill in this game. It does bows, it does muskets, which makes kind of sense. It also does your basic tools. Which you can't do with smithing. So, no? Anyway, Vol, what have you been up to?
Not a lot. It's been a rough week for me. There've been people who have been sick or have family medical emergencies or whatever a lot this week. So I've been frantically attempting to try and keep the ship in upright in the water instead of tipping over and everything going everywhere. It's been pretty tough. So I've been just coming home tired and not really getting to play very much. The only land event was on its rerun this week. I had a brief span of time to blitz the raid, which I missed almost entirely last time, so I managed to get most of the farming out of the way in one evening, so as to not need to worry about it any longer. But yeah, it is what it is. I enjoyed the event last time. I enjoyed it this time. It's a simple story and a simple event. It's not too grindy, relatively speaking, because it's a points ladder one where it's a rerun, so everybody's already got the maxed out points CEs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty easy to go through. Next major event is probably Saber Wars 2, which is going to be a big event. Don't know exactly how that one operates. I haven't read into it yet, but yeah, so not much else on that front. Gaming wise, I've been constantly tormented by announcements of cool new things that have been added to Monster Hunter Stories 2.
Yeah.
But I'm still waiting for Fern to grind his way through the story.
I'm working on it. I think I've actually hit another point where I'm definitely underleveled. I'm in the volcano area now. And things hit like really, really hard in there.
The things hit hard in general. That's never going to stop.
No.
Like, it's the only time in which things don't hit hard is at the very start of the game. You can expect when you take a hit, you need to do something about having taken that hit. Like, it's modeled on Monster Hunter damage. So getting hit is a real bad thing. And that's never going to change. The norm late game is that if you actually get hit, you either will die on the next hit or you will lose a heart straight away.
Yeah. So yeah, I've just tried to fight the Uragan boss, but he one-shot my monster like twice in one turn, so that was
That's
fun.
not strange. Get used to it.
Yeah, that's where it seems the game is going.
Yeah, get used to it. That's just how it operates. You need to be able to roll with those punches. And that you are getting one shot is not an indicator of being underleveled. What is an indicator of being underleveled is if it takes like an hour to kill a monster because you just don't do enough damage.
Yeah, thankfully I do seem to at least do enough damage. Well, almost actually. It takes a couple of hits to take out his bomb rocks.
But yeah, so in that game, I'm just doing sort of incremental work to improve the genes that my current monsters have, because I haven't been able to make up my mind about what other monsters I want to build. It's sort of a bit frustrating because, well, the optimal chassis, so to speak, on which you want to build a lot of like high-end builds is deviant monsters, basically. Like they are the best frames on which to put genes, but in order to fight them, you need to have really decent monsters, and I'm having sort of difficulty deciding what ones are going to be worth building up for that purpose. Like, if you say, oh well, I want to build a Glavenus, for instance, it's like, well, the thing is that there's just a better Glavenus.
Yeah, this is the new and improved Glavenus.
Yeah, like I don't know. Like I built Mizutsune, even though Solcia Mizutsune is a thing, but Solcia Mizutsune is more sort of gimmicky than anything else. He's not like in terms of raw stats, he's a straight upgrade, but his genes are nothing particularly special, and he's also a different type of monster. He's speed rather than technique, so it's not a straight up upgrade, but a lot of them actually are almost straight up upgrades.
Yeah.
And so how do you make the decision to upgrade a Glavenus if you know that there's going to be the Hellblade Glavenus, or how do you do Astalos if you know that there's going to be the whatever the other guy is called? I can't remember.
I forget.
Bolt Reaver.
Yeah, that's it. Bolt Reaver.
And why do Zenogre if you can do Thunderlord Zenogre? There's an awful lot of those things, and it's only continuing to grow as more deviants and new monsters get added to the game. Like the new one that they brought out recently is what was it, Volcanic Tigrex or something?
Yeah, you've got Tigrex, you've got Brute Tigrex, and now you've got Volcanic Tigrex or something.
No, there's Grimclaw Tigrex and then Volcanic Tigrex.
Oh yes, I forgot Grimclaw. So there is no shortage of Tigrex.
Yeah, the thing with Tigrex is that when he's enraged, he becomes a triple attacker.
Yeah.
Which means that he can break all 3 of your hearts in one turn and end you.
Yeah. And Tigrex are everywhere once you get past a certain point in the game.
So if you need to bring tenacity. There's basically no choice about it. You must bring tenacity with you.
Yeah.
Unless you've got something which can do the job similarly or something like that. One of those skills that will allow you to always evade one hit or something like that. But yeah, your odds are not great. Let's just say your odds are not great. You're going to want to bring some of that divine blessing stuff. You don't want to get one shot all the time and have a maxed out stack of ancient potions because you're going to be chugging a lot of them. But yeah, I have not touched any of it because it's basically don't take an AI companion to a fight like that.
Nah,
he doesn't know how to use ancient. He doesn't know how to use ancient potions. They will once in a while use an ancient potion to keep themselves in the fight, but they won't see that as a logical course of action. They will just choose to do it sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, I'm still looking forward to getting the opportunity to do some co-op on that once Fern gets there, which I'm sure he will one day. One day in the,
I think I'm nearly there.
In the distant future. And in the meantime, I've got to try and make up my mind about what I'm going to build. I keep trying to work out a build for Legiana, but I can't settle on one because everybody builds Velkhana, and I can't fault them for that. Velkhana's an incredibly cool Elder Dragon, probably my favorite.
Yeah.
And in PvP is just a god.
Is Shrieking Legiana in the game?
No, Shrieking Legiana's not in the game yet. Maybe it'll be in the game
might turn up
at
later.
some point in the future. It's just a recolor after all, so it's not hard to add. But yeah, Velkhana's such a PvP god and still so good in PvE that everybody builds a Velkhana. So all the builds out there are for Velkhana, not for Legiana. And Legiana's a little bit like Bagel Goose in that Legiana's skills are not really a perfect match for anything. Like Bagel Goose is good because he's got the conceit of being heavily blast focused, and while he's very expensive to use in terms of kinship costs for skills, his blast output is just so high, and blast is so fun to use that it doesn't matter. Whereas Legiana doesn't have as much of a gimmick. It's still heavily ice focused and therefore very good at skill seal, but so is Velkhana. Plus Velkhana's got the grunt to back things up. But like with most things, Velkhana is something that you can't just go and find a Velkhana egg somewhere. You have to be able to beat Velkhana first.
Yeah.
Another thing that you kind of don't want to bring an AI companion with you for. So yeah, not really sure what I'm going to do next in terms of building because I haven't decided on another power one. I thought about doing Pickle, but I've already got Stygians and Ogre built up, and it seems to be quite an effective build, and I don't really want, 2 of the 3 dragons, the dragon elements in the game. Like, this seems a bit...
Yeah.
Like, I'm weighting it a bit heavily in one direction. I've been toying with the idea of Folga Anjanath, but I'm not really a huge fan of Anjanath, and I still have trauma. Yeah, so I'm still thinking about what I'm going to do with that. So not much else to talk about there. And in terms of Final Fantasy XIV, I haven't had very much time to play at all. It's a time commitment, and there's lots and lots of things in that game to do, and it's very hard for me not to be distracted.
Yeah,
but I'm
gotten to play much of it either, unfortunately. I'm
gradually creeping my way through the main story quest of Shadowbringers, and just generally sort of enjoying it. It's well put together, and you can almost see the writing getting tighter as they go along. It'll probably be even more obvious to someone like Abo or Aristeel who have played a large chunk of the story all in one sort of stretch. You can sort of see the writing tightening up as you go along. until
Yep.
it's sort of very, very well groomed by the end of it. I can't see it quite so clearly because I didn't play it all at once, since I've primarily played the storylines as they came out. But it's still now still standing at the sort of the midpoint roughly of the Shadowbringers expansion. I can sort of see how far they've come looking back.
Yeah. Like, I'm going through Yotsuyu's kind of extended story at the moment. And I really liked her story when she was first made an appearance, because she was just a nasty piece of work. And now her brother's turned up.
It's like, how can you one up this? How can you one up Yotsuyu? Well, you see, she has this family.
Yeah. So, like, Yotsuyu is just nuts. Well, okay, yes. But, crazy and just nasty. So how can you top that? Like, she makes no pretense of being a nice person at all.
Yeah, well, she's just a sociopath, basically.
Yeah.
She is not concerned with the suffering of others beyond the fact that she wants them to suffer because that's the way she thinks things should be. She's a bad person, definitely, but there's something a lot more vile about the sort of type of evil that her family engages in.
Yeah.
Like, her evil is very straightforward, tyrannical cruelty.
Yes. Whereas her
But she's
brother
not.
is
She's not.
far more
She's not
manipulative.
treading on. Yeah, she's not treading on any sacred ground there. She's just a brutal ruler. That's all that there really is to it.
Yeah.
Whereas her family has just absolute contempt for things that should be treated as sacred, and absolutely no compunction about transgressing all the way across any conceivable boundary.
Yeah. So yeah, I just love how the brother seems almost reasonable and normal, right up until the point where you're alone with him.
Or, you know, if you hear his voice acting at any point.
Well, yeah, he's incredibly greasy, but like, if you hear his voice acting, you can say, no, I can't trust this guy as far as I can throw him, and I don't want to touch him because he's all slimy and gross. So yeah, I'm eager to see just how nasty he gets.
Yeah, he's definitely a horrible person, but yeah.
Like, he idolizes Xenos, and Xenos is a different kind of crazy again.
Yeah, he's special as well.
Yeah.
there are a lot of special people.
Being dead and then getting better is probably going to do some weird things to his head.
I don't know. I think that he's so far gone already.
Yeah.
He basically can't get any wackier. He's sort of gone through insanity, and now he's in sort of like the calm on the other side, where the rules have just been completely disposed of, and he sees the world in a totally different way.
Yeah. Where he starts following the Warrior of Light around like a lost puppy.
It's his best friend, all right.
An incredibly disturbing and evil lost puppy. Yeah. But just how they did the mask drop was brilliant.
Yeah, I was actually a little bit surprised that they had Yotsuyu's brother out himself like that straight away. But in retrospect, it made a lot of sense because he was driven by something purely emotional and not something calculating.
Yeah, like when he's confronted with the Warrior of Light, you took out the person he idolized. So when he comes up close and starts talking crazy to you, there's nothing. The restraint is gone. He just can't help himself. Him crazy.
He cray like a lot of people in the cast. Stormblood.
The crazy just comes spilling out.
That whole family.
There
must be something genetic in the Yotsuyu line that just makes you lose your marbles at puberty or something.
Well, the father, you get an echo vision right early on, which kind of explains a bit about where Yotsuyu came from. But the father was a right bastard as well. That whole family.
Yeah, they're worthless.
Yeah.
The world is well shot of them, to be honest.
Not yet. I haven't finished the story yet.
Yeah, you haven't got to that point. I don't know I don't know. I presume that they're not all Final Fantasy dead.
I mean, Yoshi's
People
already
don't-
been Final Fantasy dead once.
Yeah, people don't die in Final Fantasy, but I mean, eventually they must run out of extra lives.
It could be
So-
worse. She could be Warcraft dead.
Merely a setback.
Merely a setback. Your head is over there. It's still merely a setback. Brought back purely for plot convenience. So yeah.
So I'm proceeding through the story. It's a good time. I'm enjoying it. Things make sense more or less in a more or less kind of way.
Mm,
But yeah, good times. Good times.
good times.
I don't think I really have much else to talk about. I haven't started watching any of the season's new anime because I haven't felt so uninspired by the list of new anime this season since last season.
Oh, that reminds me of something awful. I just can't find anything new season. So I went back and decided I'm just going to watch Sleepy Princess again. I love that show. I'm not actually signed up to Anime Lab at the moment. So you can actually watch a lot of their older stuff for free if you don't mind putting up with a few ads.
Anime Lab doesn't exist anymore.
Anime Lab does not exist anymore, and they are very adamant to tell you that. They brought in a whole bunch of voice actors to tell you this, and they're all doing appallingly bad Australian or New Zealand accents. I'm looking at
Why?
you, Bryce Pappenbrook,
Why Australian and New Zealand accents?
because Anime Lab was Australia and New Zealand only.
Yeah, I know, but you aren't supposed to court an audience by showing absolute contempt for them.
Yeah, and aside from one of them, who I think is actually a native New Zealander, they are awful, and they're terrible to watch. Just, Bryce, no. Stap. So, yeah. You get at least 2 of these things per episode of anime you watch too, so yay.
Cringe.
It almost makes you want to just give them money so they go away. Almost.
Anyway, there's not really anything to talk about as far as the season's concerned. Like, I look at the list of shows and my heart just sinks. It's like, oh my goodness, really? This is gonna be one of those seasons, isn't it?
It's a filler season, yes.
It's just not good. And even the isekai sounds even worse than normal. Generally,
That's an
speaking.
achievement.
Well, it's partly that's because they all sound like something that was done last season or the season before as well,
Yeah,
or like a worse version of that. Some
certainly
of them
doesn't
are pretty
help.
bad. None of them involve smartphones this time, at least.
That's
something.
an improvement.
But it's not a good enough reason to watch any of them. It's just ugh.
Yeah.
There's what looks like a Digimon reboot of some kind,
Another one?
or like parallel spin-off or something as well.
Okay, I need to look at this.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it. I don't even know what it's called. I think it's called Digimon Ghost Game or something.
Okay,
But
let's see.
it's like another Digimon. But I don't have any intention to watch it because I'm not really a Digimon person.
There's still...
The creator and original writer of Digimon disowned the current producers of the show after the last big movie feature in the original adventure cast. Because they brought him on for consultation to make sure everything was consistent with the lore. And right away, they screwed up and said, when kids reach a certain age, the Digimon just disappear. Never mind, that's contradicted by all of canon.
Yeah.
But there's all these pictures of them as adults with their Digimon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he's in open contempt with the current producers of the show.
I mean, yeah, like the current season's not bad if you take it on its own, but it's not really the same. It's not Digimon, honestly.
How do you even make mistakes that large?
It's not exactly a complicated lore. Unless you want to actually count on the Digi-evolution trees, in which case it becomes incredibly complicated.
Yeah, at any rate, I was sort of hoping that there would be something.
Here it is, yeah. Digimon Ghost Game.
I was sort of hoping there'd be something to keep me going this season, but it looks like there really isn't. Like,
yeah.
I thought that there was like a new Demon Slayer scheduled or something like that before too long. but
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet.
I think I saw there's a new Cardfight Vanguard anime season.
There's always a new Card Fight Vanguard anime season.
Yeah.
Always.
Always. Here it is, yeah. What's Demon Slayer? Let's see. Entirely new first episode. TV. It's a TV adaptation of the Mugen Train arc by the look of it.
Grown.
At least the
worked as
first
a-
bit of it
it worked-
is.
It worked as a movie. I don't think it really needs to be.
Yeah.
Although I might just rewatch that series because it was really well put together.
So this is
Not the most original story ever, but very well put together.
the remaining episodes will add about 70 new animation cuts and new background music as well as a new trailer. So yeah, okay, yeah, it's a TV adaptation of Mugen Train.
It's a rehash. I don't have time for that sort of thing. But yeah, there's just nothing. There's nothing to watch. It
Yeah.
all looks really quite terrible. and
Even
I
just the
don't really-
quantity is right down too, compared to what we've gotten used to.
People don't work efficiently when they're working from home, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bleh. I'll probably just try watching a few random things and see if I can accidentally hit on something that's at least watchable. But
Yeah, like you never know. There might be something in there that'll run good.
occasionally there is, but I just don't feel that hopeful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I keep hoping that there'll be some continuation or something because there's so many things that get done for one season and then they never reappear again, and it's kind of frustrating. But
I think we've
like,
actually
there
hit
should
the
be
end of
more.
the run of Slime Time too, so that's another show off the list.
Yeah, there should be like more Shield Hero soon, surely. Like
Surely.
that's got to be coming up again soon.
I've heard it's in dev right now.
Yeah, I hope so. That story goes some weird places. Not weird fun.
But there's like a bunch of isekai that are getting new seasons that are like early next year. Let's say that it's like this does not deserve another season. It was bad the first time. Why are you doing it again? But
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe there's a market for that stuff, or maybe it's just easy to make, so they don't really
I mean,
care.
How do you write an isekai? It's like step 1, truck coon. Step 2,
Yeah.
idiotic premise. Step 3, overpowered protagonist. And now it writes itself.
Even Pinecone is getting another season.
Okay.
It looks like the Shield Hero is scheduled for April next year.
Okay, it's a bit further away than I thought.
Yeah, this doesn't look good. Doesn't look good at all going forward.
No.
Bit worrying.
Okay, this dog is
Yeah.
making weird noises. Give me a sec.
Yeah, the whole anime landscape is pretty cringe at the moment, and yeah, while I enjoy watching it, I think there's going to be a few seasons of me, filling in my evenings with rewatching stuff that I really like because there's just nothing new coming out that I like. I actually like. I like watching new stuff sight unseen just to see what it's like and how it goes, but I've been burned more often than blessed lately.
Yeah, I while I was doing the activity I'll talk about in a minute, I was rewatching Psychopaths at the same time and seeing what the dub was like. Just because I didn't want to watch anything that was new, nothing jumped out to me.
And nor would it because it's bad. It's bad. I don't know why it's so bad. It just is. Ugh. I don't know how to process it. It's generally horrid. Anyway, I don't have a great deal more to talk about, but Fern left us here
Yes, he
unattended,
did.
Oh, great.
unable to take care of ourselves. Is he back now? Great.
Yep.
Fantastic.
So, sorry about that. I just had to remove Doggo. And it got me killed again. So, taking a break?
Yes, I need to go to the
Yeah.
bathroom badly.
All
All
right.
right, here's a break, folks. We'll be right back. And we're back.
Yes. So yeah,
Oh.
I died again.
We'll stop.
Yeah, I need to not die. I need to probably not play this game, but still, I need to not die.
Yeah. So we were at the tail end of All's Week, I think.
Yeah, I don't think I've got much else to talk about. I'm presently attempting to clear out my retainer because I've got tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of old mats in my inventory for when I was last playing Final Fantasy XIV, and frankly I don't know what any of it is, so I'm just going to sell everything gradually and start afresh.
Yeah. All right. I guess we can move into my week for what it was. I didn't really have the week I thought I was going to have. Thankfully, it was relatively light on work, but that didn't stop me being from being preoccupied. My aunt's mother, or my aunt's dad, fell down in his house
Oh no.
and had to be taken to the hospital, and they had to do all kinds of tests and stuff on him. And this is the opossum's family, and the opossum is completely useless, and his whole family is, for one reason or another, not in a position to watch my aunt's mom. So I got nominated for the task to do it. And it was me sitting in the office with her in the rec room, which is directly across from my desk, and me peeking in there occasionally and having to go do stuff for the opossum and his wife whenever they needed something.
Yeah, okay.
So, hang on, I just got the fish I needed. So, I couldn't do anything
Nice.
that required a time commitment in Final Fantasy XIV. I couldn't sit down and do any real leveling because I couldn't do any dungeons. I couldn't really focus on any tasks that required me to continuously pay attention the literal entire time. So, what I did was I decided, my fisher needs some work. So, I decided to just level my fishing, and once I started approaching 80, I got the brilliantly stupid idea that I'm going to do the infamous legendary fishing quest.
Oh no.
This quest is notoriously difficult because it requires you to go to specific places at specific times and on Eorzea time, which 3 seconds equals 1 minute, and catch the legendary fish of Eorzea. Now, there's one in every single of the main capital city zones. So Lenoska has one, the Black Shroud has one, and Thanalan has one. There's one in Mordona, there's one in Korthus, and there's the one I'm on right now, which is in the middle of the ocean off eastern Lenoska. Mm-hmm. Now, to get these fish, you have to show up at the appropriate time of day, and then you have to show up and under the appropriate weather. And if it's a weather chain that's required for that thing, the previous weather had to be correct as well.
Oh.
So
that makes it so much worse.
And the fish do not sync up their catch times with the weather. So the Southern Thanalan one was a nightmare for me because it's particularly bad. You need clear skies into heat wave, or foggy or cloudy into heat wave, which is a really rare weather pattern. And during the heat wave, you need to go and try and fish the boss. Now, the problem is his catch times overlap 2 weather windows, and it bifurcates his catch time right down the middle. And it doesn't matter if it goes heat wave to heat wave. You can only catch him during the first one. But that means instead of the 8 hours of in-game time you would normally have during a weather window, you instead have a whopping 4 hours of in-game time. So you have half the time to catch that one.
Ah.
So that's fun. And then you have the weather chains, and getting the weathers to chain appropriately was a right pain in the butt. And that's all on top of everything else. These fish are just stupid rare. Even if you meet all the perfect conditions, catching the fish is still really hard. The chance of hooking these stupid things is really, really low. Like, I've been sitting here on this boat trying to catch the final one, and I've hooked it like 9 times, and it's gotten away every single time, and I'm in Shadowbringer's gear. So it's a tough little side quest to do that requires a lot of patience, no pun intended. And yeah, just sitting here trying to fish up all the fish. And that's really all I've had time to do in Final Fantasy. I've been too busy.
Oh dear.
What are you laughing at me?
Yeah, it's like all I have done is fish. Just fish.
Store the
Yeah.
fish.
It was an
You seem to not be able to help yourself. Being presented with fishing in a video game, you just always seem to end up spending huge amounts of time doing it.
yeah, but
At least it's not as bad as Nier.
yeah, at least it's not as bad as Nier.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are 5 other people on this boat with me right now attempting to catch this thing because apparently it just doesn't rain in Eastern Lenoska ever. The last fish has a really easy condition. It just has to be raining. That's it.
All right.
And you get out here, and while it's raining, you have to catch 3 in a row of the same fish. This place has got a pretty huge drop table, but we can cheese it now with Shadowbringers, because now we have identical catch and double hook. So as long as you have more than, I think it's 750 GP, and you have that in your bar, when you catch the first fish that you need to catch 3 in a row of, you use identical catch, so the next cast you do will be that same fish, and then you use double hook when you do catch it to catch 3 all at once. And that counts. And this gives you a 5-minute buff window to either mooch chain from a goby that you can catch with the lowest level thing and hope it hooks to the goby, or you can just throw out Northern Krill onto the sea and hope you get it. And
Wow.
I keep hooking it, and the mooch method's working better, but my girl just can't reel it in. So that's what I've been doing. The other project I have been going on is my Astrologian, where
Oh.
I would get home from work and I would blitz my roulettes, and then I would get ready to go back to work and sit in the office and watch my aunt's mom and fish. And that's unfortunately what occupied pretty much all of my time.
Oh dear. It's been a pretty dull week there.
Yeah. I wish I had more to expound on. I wish I had time to play Melty Blood this week. I had time today, I just didn't think about it. And the like all games nowadays, because we can't have a finished game, that would just be too much for modern game developers.
Way too much.
The making player matches is currently a little borked.
Oh.
And by a little borked, I mean a lot borked.
He's completely borked?
Not completely borked, just a little borked.
Oh no.
But they screwed up the dates in the in-game calendar, and this makes it so people with different system clocks from the dates on the matchmaking server can't match together, which is everybody. And they said they're aware of it and are going to fix it, but I have no idea what that's going to translate into. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I played through Arc Story. It feels like Melty Blood so far, but it's single-player impressions. Having no ability to pick the moons of the character is understandable, but a little weird for the characters when you're thinking about Melty Blood. But it's still an air dash fighter. You want to play in the air, and all the characters feel really good to play and feel at least reminiscent of their old selves from the little bit I played with anybody other than Arc. But I just haven't put much time into it to give a real good judgment on it yet. So I'll have to get back to everybody when we get to that.
How's the selection of novelty characters? How many Neko arcs are there?
If they are in the game, you'll have to unlock them, and I have not gotten that far to unlock them yet.
All right. Because the last thing we need is more weird beam spam.
No, Bimu
Emu.
is Mecha Hisui.
She is also, yeah. Or do you just want to KO somebody by putting out this cigarette on their face?
That's Neko Art Chaos.
Yes.
But yeah. So yeah, unfortunately, I just don't have very much this week. It was all wrapped up in elderly watching
Yeah.
and making sure they don't eat the couch.
Please don't eat couches, people.
I mean, it's a legitimate concern.
It
I
is.
don't
She
think it is a legitimate concern for most people. I don't think we need to make a PSA about it, Fern.
She is really far gone.
Yeah, dementia is a hell of a thing.
So she needs somebody watching her at all times. So yeah, that's been my week. It hadn't been a whole lot of anything other than being busy watching family, working, and doing fishing.
All right. Unfortunately, because New World launched this week, that's basically where all the news has gone. For
Yeah.
better or
Do we have
worse.
any emails? Do we remember to check?
Probably should check the email box.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me have a quick look here. Provided I don't get eaten by wolves, because it's always wolves. We have roll. No emails today.
Calamity.
All right. So, we do have a few little things, but by and large, because New World came out, it's kind of eaten the news. Who wants to pick something first?
I got like 5 more minutes on this fish.
All right. Well, we've already talked about New World and New World bricking RTXs. You want to talk about Waifu Impact?
Sure, we can follow up with last week.
All right, if you got a follow up.
Yeah, sure. So the outrage continued well past just getting mad at MiHoYo in general on the social medias. This spread to the review sites, which I found amusing.
Yes.
And this seems to be the catalyst that finally got their attention. Of all things.
Did we even talk about this last week?
I don't think we did, actually. I think we
You're
missed a lot
speaking
of
as though we did, but I don't
I
remember
was-
us talking about it.
All
I don't
right,
think it was even happening last week.
Maybe I posted it and talked about it off show with somebody.
I think
so
you
thought
may
it was-
have.
Okay, that's a possibility. I might be losing my mind.
So,
Because I brought it up with you, and then you posted it, but I don't think we really said anything about it.
yeah, not on the
All
show.
right.
So,
You posted that on the 30th, so you posted it on Thursday. So yes, I brought it up on Thursday. It has not actually been going that long.
Yeah, my brain's been shot all
that
week.
says all we need to know about your week then, if that's how things are going.
It's been a really dull week.
Yeah.
Try that again. So Genshin Impact's anniversary happened, and players of mobile phone games are used to the anniversary events of games being quite generous. Even FGO's generous.
Yes. The stingiest
Within its
game going.
normal scope of generosity.
Well, by their standards, it's fairly generous.
Yeah, and what players of Genshin found out is MiHoYo is a Chinese company, and they ain't so generous, or they don't want to be if they don't have to be. So they announced like a $30 special purchase you could make for the announcement, and gave out a few Primo Gems, and that was it.
Yep. And needless to say, the salt hit the fan.
Oh, did I finally catch it? Am I free?
No.
Am I free?
No.
Maybe?
Probably not.
I'm free!
You got it. Nice. And say no, you're tempting fate.
Okay. Type into the guys that were fishing with me.
All right.
So yeah, okay. You have no idea how happy that makes me after all the effort that went into this. Okay. So yeah, got the what's it called? The Nepto Dragon.
Neptune Dragon.
Turn that thing in so I don't accidentally vendor it or something stupid.
Yeah.
So okay, and so yeah, players were mad,
Very mad.
and they took to the usual social medias and informed everybody that this was awful and made the whole world know. This didn't seem to get MiHoYo's attention, and their communication's pretty bad already because China. So they didn't get a pretty good word out to the people that were playing their game. What did catch their attention?
I think there is actually a more complicated story to this because they did not. It was not just you didn't give us enough Premier Gems. That would just be gacha salt in that case. But I hear that they had some like competitions and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah they had contests for like all kinds of weird stuff like cosplays.
But what they were offering as prizes was like comically trivial.
Yeah.
Like insultingly trivial.
It was laughable. Like you couldn't even toss these people like $20 worth of stuff in your game for winning a prize.
Yeah. $20 of stuff people might have gone for it.
Yeah, it was like a few 10 pulls worth of Primo Gems and the daily login buff.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, and I think there was a few more tiny things, but that was basically it. So yeah, people were not happy.
No.
So after going all over social media failed to get them to do anything, they started review bombing the game everywhere. The Google Play Store especially got hit hard because they don't censor the user reviews nearly as hard as Apple does. So, which is surprising, but given that it's Google, but that's just the kind of way it is.
It's
evil fighting evil there.
Yeah. So
normally I'm not really a fan of the review bomb unless it's like really, really, really thoroughly deserved. And in a lot of cases, I don't feel like if you're playing a gacha game, you have any right to be mad because you know what you're getting yourself into in a certain sense. But I mean, when it comes to a Chinese run game, there's literally no reason to believe any kind of communication will ever take place.
Yeah, it's literally the only way to get their attention.
Yeah. So this did get their attention, and they're like, "Okay, we hear you," and immediately began trying to placate the players. Now, this $30 bundle that they offered for players to purchase, it was leaked that it was $30 to purchase during the outrage.
Which would not have helped things.
Now it's free as long as you watch the live concert that went on like today or something. And
okay, that's fair.
And you can redeem the tokens in it.
Yeah, the thing that they don't seem to grasp is it's not really a celebration if nobody is celebrating.
Yeah, we're celebrating because you're buying more stuff.
Yeah, so they gave that for free, which had like wings for your character for the anniversary. It had a whole bunch of like Primo Gems and other goodies in it. And then they increased the Primo Gem payout they're given. At least that's what I'm reading. I don't actually play the game, so I haven't checked any of this stuff myself.
I like to play the game. It's actually quite a good game. But it's also...
China.
It's also gacha. So, yeah. It's not just that it's a Chinese gacha, it's just gacha in general.
I'd be okay if it was just gacha, but China I can't do.
If it was just gacha, I could probably...
Yeah, well, the thing is that the core game is actually good.
Yeah.
It's just that the gacha poisons everything, and the China's basically the icing on the cake at that point.
Yeah.
It's if I'm playing a gacha game, I know what I'm getting in for. And my general habits with gacha games are to, depending on the hours I put into it, if I approach somewhere around 20 hours in a month, I'll flick them a few bucks, or think about starting to give them a little bit of cash in one big bundle purchase later in the year.
Real talk, that even if it wasn't China, I wouldn't give money to Genshin because their pricing is too sort of like on the nose. It's too like comically exploitative. It's not regular exploitative. It's not regular gacha. It's like, this is gacha except they're squeezing you twice as hard as normal.
Yeah, and this is coming from someone who plays FGO.
Yeah, I spend money on FGO.
Yeah,
well, I'm not afraid of that. I do it. But
you know what you're getting in for there.
Yeah, well, I know what I'm getting in for if I spend money on Genshin as well, and it's basically I'm getting nothing.
Yeah,
like, it's not just a matter of, oh well, you'll spend money but you might not roll anything good. That's the agreement that everybody enters into with the Great God Gacha.
Yes,
but in the case of Genshin, it's not just, oh, you might not get anything. It's like you have to spend a humongous amount of money for the opportunity to not get anything
Yes.
because the exchange rate is so bad.
It's
Yeah,
awful.
you're paying like, I think it's what, $15 for a 10 roll or something like that at their most egregious pricing.
I haven't checked in a while. I just remember it being extraordinarily bad.
Yeah, it's really, really bad.
Yeah.
The only quote unquote value offer they have would be a ripoff in any other game with the daily login bonus. It's still not worth your money because you still don't get enough bang for your buck for what they ask for.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't conch any money that I would spend on a gacha, even if the pricing wasn't bad, going to China. I don't want to support a Chinese company. And I don't really want to log into a blatantly Chinese game because it has every reason to give every bit of data that goes through that game to the CCP.
Yeah, I don't see how that model is going to be sustainable for them for very much longer, because the additional censorship that has been brought in over the past month or so is so brutal to Genshin Impact. Like, because Genshin Impact is designed around the Japanese aesthetic. Like, it has been banned for there to be effeminate male characters in Chinese games, for instance, which means that there's a number of characters that will simply have to be removed, or they're going to have to fight it out with the CCP.
Yeah. Removed, redesigned, or renegotiated.
Yeah, let's say though that you're a huge fan of Venti and you spent a lot of money to roll him up. Like, if he suddenly turns into a macho man character, like Beefcake, like, do you think that that's going to affect your feelings about the game at all? It probably will.
Yeah, just a bit.
It is a waifu game after all. And
yeah,
husbandos.
Well, the thing is, you say it's a waifu game, but the most fanatical portion of the fan base are the husbando fans.
Yeah.
And they all like the dapper bishonen, which are all sort of skirting the line as far as Chinese rules go now.
Yeah. So you start changing people's waifus or husbandos, and they notice.
Yeah, and they get quite miffed
They
about
get
it.
very miffed.
But I don't see how they're gonna stay alive with the censorship going. Can you imagine if like the book boy, the water book boy, or Venti, or even the dark skinned dude, what's his name? Starts with a K.
Kaya.
He's good for making Kai. He's good for making ice bridges. He probably qualifies enough to get thrown out.
Yeah, could be. He could be. It's hard to tell because, you know, they make up their rules as they go along, right? That's how they operate. That's how authoritarians usually operate.
Yeah, and every description I've heard of the censorship is that it's incredibly vague on purpose.
Yeah, well, because they need the room to say, oh no, we always told you that this is the way it was. The fact that you're not abiding by it is your fault.
Yeah. I would, I'm sure the people in MiHoYo are totally brainwashed by the CCP at this point in their lives. They've lived in China probably their whole life and are just used to rolling along with it. But you got to feel a little bad for the dudes that worked really hard on something they were really passionate about, and then the CCP hammer came down. You'd think that'd be a wake-up call.
Yeah, that's what has happened, and it's what will happen. Like, I'd see a lot of things that suggest that a lot of these companies like MiHoYo, like Tencent, and that they're looking for ways to sort of diversify in such a way as to not attract too much attention from the government, but establish the bulk of their business overseas, because they know that they can't continue their business within their own country. It's not practical.
Yeah.
Which means it's going to make things very interesting over the next few years.
Well, it's already interesting now with the censorship and the products we're getting coming out, and how much China influences our media because they're the biggest payers for stuff like Hollywood movies. Like every big blockbuster Hollywood movie you see is vying for a spot in however many China allows to come in from foreign countries that year.
Because if you can get your movie into that market, you can make bank.
So whether you've noticed it or not, most of your Hollywood movies these days are very China friendly, and this limits your creativity quite a bit.
Implying there's any creativity in Hollywood.
Well, yeah. What little creativity remains in Hollywood.
So yeah, that's
that. At least we got reasonably happy ending for people who still like the game.
Well, the people that are still playing got a immediate fix to their problem, but MiHoYo just rubs me as a scummy company to begin with. Well, where they'll money grub because they're China, and they'll just try and rip you off. It's just a way the Chinese do. I think Azure Lane was a bit more generous, but
Azure Lane is comically generous. Like it barely even counts as gacha. Like it operates as gacha, and they do want you to spend money. And I did spend money, but the reason why I was willing to spend money is that they were so generous that I almost felt bad.
Yeah.
Because I literally rolled up every limited ship on every event for like 6 months straight, just using free summoning cubes. You've got access to pretty much anything you want. There is almost nothing that is really genuinely bracketed by your expenditure on premium currency, except your vanity stuff, like decorating your ship girl's dormitory and getting additional skins, which are just basically art. That doesn't really change very much in any respect. Anything that's remotely mechanical, all of the characters, like there are no characters that you have to spend money to get at all. You can, like I said, quite reasonably get all of them for free, which is what I did. It was once I'd been playing for a while enough that I understood how to build up a reserve of summoning materials, I just summoned everything that I wanted. It was extremely rare that I ever missed anything that I was actually trying to get. There are lots and lots of ways for them to extract money out of you, but they never at any point make you feel like you've got no choice.
Yeah, that's the sort of balance you want to strike.
Yeah.
Very hard thing to do.
But, and I don't think that anybody seems to really want to, though. Azure Lane has done it, but I don't think that I've ever seen a gacha that's anywhere close to as generous as Azure Lane. Like the rates for your high rarity ship girls are just really, really high compared to other gachas. Like you can just assume that if you summon hard enough, you're going to get them eventually.
Yeah.
Like all of the other gacha I played are nowhere near. Like FGO has the worst raw rates,
and no
of
pity
the ones that I've played
system,
and no pity system. But Arknights was relatively middle of the road. It's sort of hard to tell with Girls Frontline because the system is so unbelievably arcane.
Yeah.
But you're usually going to end up getting something good sooner or later. But targeting a specific one is extremely difficult and resource intensive. So, yeah, I don't. It's very complicated because depending on, there's actually a method to summoning which will massage odds a little bit this way, a little bit that way.
Okay.
You can't guarantee anything, but you can raise the odds. There's like massive databases of summoning statistics online where people have been trying to divine exactly how the system works, and there are definitely clear trends. And if you spend particular resources and particular ratios on particular banners, you have a much higher chance of generating particular raifus, as people call them.
Yes.
But yeah. But I don't know like what Pinecone is like, for instance, and
Pinecone is a Cygames game, so it has
so it'll be the
fairly
same as Grind Blue.
Well, it's they have a very generous Spark system and a fairly middle of the road rates for this stuff, where it's I think 2% for SSRs, but their Spark system is you'll be able to accrue enough of the currency you need within 3 months of playing to spark whatever limited you want. And you don't need dupes in Pinecone. They do absolutely nothing for you.
Alright. What else did we actually get? this week?
I dumped some
news.
rage bait in there, but that's about all we got left because we already touched on the.
I do not want to talk about GTA 5.
It's just
I don't know anything about GTA 5. Like, by the time I realized that GTA 5 existed and was a thing, it was already like mega popular and bleeding money out of people left and right.
Yeah, I played GTA.
Somehow it just totally missed me.
Yeah, I played about 5-10 minutes of GTA 5. I logged in, I found myself a rocket launcher, I managed to shoot someone with it, and then I shot him again when he spawned nearby. And because I thought, all right, that was my fun, I guess.
Yeah,
I'm done now.
I'm done now. I've had my bazooka fun.
GTA 5 came out at a time where I was just starting to get sick of open world games. And so I did the whole main story at the time and don't remember a bit of it. It was thoroughly unmemorable.
It was good, but yeah, unmemorable.
And yeah, I just kind of kept writing it off after that as that game I played already.
It's that game that asks absurd amounts of money for shark bucks on Steam all the time.
Yeah. I don't think I ever played it again after I beat the single player story, and I think that was the last big open world game that I played and actually played through the main story up to completion.
Did you play Breath of the Wild? No, you didn't, did you?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you did? Okay, so yeah.
But I didn't finish it.
Right.
I got bored with it.
I got sick of the stupid camel dungeon.
The dungeons weren't the problem. It was just it felt like there was so much downtime in Breath of the Wild. That,
yeah, there was.
As somebody who, when they're playing a console game that's an action game, I'm conditioned to think like in Devil May Cry mode, and I'm looking for something much more pace of that for my action games than a very slow and methodical romp around the world.
Nothing is happening. It's not chill out and enjoy the scenery time. It means you're probably doing something wrong.
Yeah, so I have to be really in the mood for that type of game, especially in 3D.
Yeah.
So yeah, unfortunately, there aren't any more really newsworthy topics other than that. The article for those curious was just a bunch of alphabet people activists are saying they need to remove all the quote unquote transphobia and transphobic elements in GTA 5.
I don't remember any particular elements. But maybe it's because I'm a normal person.
Any assertion that there is male and female is considered offensive and transphobic. You're not allowed to state anything that resembles common sense in those circles. It makes people uncomfortable.
Using normal pronouns? What is this heresy?
Yeah, you cannot deviate from their way of thinking at all. And their way of thinking is, not exactly straight. It's kind of a corkscrew that twists in on itself on several knots.
It's totally incomprehensible.
Yeah. I'm flicking through and I'm not seeing anything in particular. We did have the Tokyo Game Show happen, but nothing new really came out of it.
A lot of rumors came out, and I didn't post it because I generally don't like to post rumors in the news thing unless I think the source seems pretty legit.
Yeah.
But I didn't have time to dig deep enough into all these rumors to figure out which ones seem legit.
Like, a couple of the rumors is a reboot of Castlevania being the big one.
Yeah, I don't know why it needs rebooting. Just continue.
Don't reboot it.
Or make another game.
Yeah, make something new.
Make something we haven't already seen before.
That's the other thing. We're getting so many remakes and reboots. Like, oh, more Castlevania. Yeah, I like Castlevania style games. I'll probably pick it up, and that's where the hype dies.
Yeah. Like we rag on Hollywood for not having new ideas, but games industry is not much better. Yeah,
it's all the creative outlets now that they're established and nobody can stick their finger in. Yeah, and the normies have infected them as well. They do everything safe to make the biggest buck.
Yeah.
While I love capitalism to death, you do not have to have money as your motivating force when doing work.
If you build it, they will come. Is the big rule you need to go by.
Some people do actually just like to make good stuff. I would think. I hope.
Those
They
people
used
in
to.
gaming are in the indie industry now. Those who've made a jump over to AAA tend to basically become the same drones that everybody else does.
I don't necessarily have so much of so much faith in the indie sector, to be honest. Like it seems like it's merely ripe for corruption at this point. Like,
Oh yeah,
so many of them have come to resemble so closely the parts of the industry, the heavily corporatized parts of the industry that they claimed to be the alternative to at this point.
yeah.
Like most of in fact, the bulk of the big ones have just straight up sold up at this point.
Yeah, when I'm talking indies, I'm still talking like the up to 5-person teams who are working out of somebody's back room, and they've just had an idea that they really like and want to make.
Yeah, it's like
Well, they're facing their own types of implosions at this point because the expectations that people have are very strange. Like if you look at Valheim guys, for instance, right? That's 15 people.
Yeah.
That game is not 15 people successful.
Nope.
It is ridiculously successful.
It is absurdly successful.
However, currently they're now being absolutely crushed by negative opinion about their quantity of output.
Yeah.
Because they think that they're supposed to be getting AAA quantity of new content, and it's not happening.
Because it's not AAA.
And they say, we gave you all of this money. It's like, well, you didn't ask them if they want to be a AAA studio even before you gave them AAA money, did you? Like, there's no reason why they should do that. They've got this particular game that they want to make and support, and it's not necessarily the game that you want it to be. Having now come in and decided we've given you all this money, now you need to inflate the size of your studio overnight and become the next Blizzard or whatever. Because that worked out real well for them, didn't it?
it's like the only indie company I can think of is the one I always support, always give a blowjob to on the show. And
why do you have to say it like that?
Because you got to be filthy.
I thought about being nice and cordial with it at first, but then I was like, no, I just fillet these guys every time I bring them up.
Your behavior is far too disgraceful for that.
like to say less would be dishonest. But no, assuming at this point, I think they've been just arrested by the Australian cops.
Possibly.
But they're the
Everybody
only.
else has.
I think they're in Melbourne, so anything's possible down there.
Yeah, they're in the heart of all this tomfoolery going on. So
Melbourne's about 3 steps removed from going full Mad Max at this point.
Yeah, so they probably ain't getting much work done.
To be fair, most of Australia is
guys.
only 10 steps removed from Mad Max, so yeah.
Yeah, so
you have a limited time.
Wasn't Mad Max filmed there?
Yes, and set there. Well, partly there.
at least you had Mad Max filmed Where You Live instead of Deliverance. That's what was filmed in my area.
Oh, right. And The Walking Dead.
Yeah, those.
This is not much better.
No, it's because those guys were obstructive as all get out. Because they needed main roads for their filming and got permits with all the cities.
Oof.
I'm sure they fell over themselves to give out those permits too.
Yeah, at least when the Survivor people were here, the people they annoyed most was the one of the local restaurants where they'd turn up half an hour after they closed the kitchen demanding food.
Yeah, I saw the Walking Dead crew filming something with a car driving really fast.
That could be anything.
They did not stop traffic for the scene.
Oh, no.
I was at a 4-way stop, and regular traffic is going through that area. And I just see them filming down one of the roads and coming right away, or they're going away from the 4-way stop. I'm like, you didn't stop traffic. There are people with their turn signals to get onto that road.
You're doing.
So not only did they monopolize our roads as much as they could, sometimes they just wouldn't tell you they were going to do it.
Which is dangerous.
I don't think they were worried about that.
I don't think they were.
I mean, if there was a car crash, they probably would have used it somewhere.
Stranger Things filmed real close to me too, up at the rock quarry near the prison by my house.
Oh, yes.
That they weren't as obstructive. But
which actually
show's still
reminds
bad.
me, I've seen bits and pieces coming through the grapevine that there's a D&D edition coming out, like a similar thing that they did for 3.5.
No, 5.5 or something.
5.5 is what it's being called at the moment. Which I would normally say great, but I mean, WotC.
Yeah, and it's WotC, and I'm so into homebrew at this point, I just don't care what Wizards of the Coast does or what the official rulebook says.
A lot of people are like that. Like, they'll use the official books maybe for a couple of sessions, and then after that, it's like, no, that rule's dumb. Let's just change it.
Well, that's what everybody does. Literally everybody does
Literally
that.
everyone.
If you DM enough, you become a homebrew author.
Yeah.
Because what's going to happen is you're just going to start writing the rules yourself, and eventually you realize, at this point, I might as well just remake the whole system.
Yeah,
because
or
my
something.
group has these. My group has consistently these problems, whether it's because the way I DM or the way they play. So let's just fix it so in a way I think will work better. And then you test it, and if it does, great. If not, you revise it and you keep trying.
Yeah, which is the beauty of the tabletop. It's just completely freeform, ultimately. They provide a skeleton, and you build on that.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I saw some news going around that Games Workshop has debuted this new monstrous NDA, which basically includes as a stipulation in the NDA you sign that you can't say anything that they don't like.
Oh, that should be all sorts of illegal.
Like, you may review this item provided that the review is good, is basically what it says.
Oh, that's not for their new... they have a online subscription thing. I think it's called Warhammer Plus at the moment. Which is attracting its own drama because they promised the world. They promised all these short stories, complete with animations and all sorts of other goodies. And they failed to deliver on everything.
I don't know anything about that in particular.
Yeah, that's about my knowledge of the whole thing.
All I'm saying is I heard about this NDA that's apparently deeply, deeply atrocious, and basically it indemnifies them entirely against any criticism. Like if you say anything bad, not only will they sue you, but you have also signed a thing saying that you will pay them to sue you.
Ooh, that's nasty.
Yeah.
Why would you sign that?
If we still
I don't know. Do people not read them, maybe? I don't know.
If we still had a sane legal system in the US, they...
yeah, you don't.
We don't. That would get struck down because you can't make contracts like that.
Yeah, but
I don't know how they've arranged things for themselves. I don't know how they've set it up, but that's just I'm just saying that's what I've seen.
Yeah,
it's been going around that they've come up with this incredibly horrific NDA.
If you have enough money, you could probably make all sorts of things happen. So yeah, we'll see what happens with the 5.5 edition. I mean, they could do something cool. I'd love to see them just add a whole bunch of more options for class mechanics because they're a bit linear at the moment.
Well, if they're a bit linear, the solution isn't really to ask them to do another linear thing. It's to come up with something that you like.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people do. Is they'll just homebrew something.
Well, you don't even need to homebrew something if you don't want to. Somebody will have done it already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, if what you're looking for is supplementary material, someone's going to have written it. I'm sure there are communities online that absolutely playtest that crap into the ground to make sure it's robust.
Yeah.
Far more than WotC will ever bother.
Oh yeah. If you go to a site called 5e Tools, you can basically bring up a list of homebrew stuff. And people have done everything. Like, there's someone actually at the moment making a class which basically rips off Monster Hunter. To the degree where you can actually harvest a dead monster and wear its skin as a hat. So, that sounds like fun. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's... Yeah, the beauty of the tabletop is you can basically do whatever you want. If the rules don't work for you, change them. So, anywho. Was there anything else?
No, we've already got most of our news from tangents.
All right.
So,
and yeah, the biggest thing was New World this week, and
Yeah, it just looks bad to me. I'll just come out and say it. Like, when I saw people playing it, it looked bad. It's just like, wow, I don't think I've seen an MMO in quite some time that I have so little interest in. And the testimonies that I've seen from people are similar. Like, I don't remember much about the detail, but I remember seeing Preach commenting on the matter, and like he's just come straight out of his first encounter with Final Fantasy 14 and
With
into New
stars
World,
in his
and
eyes.
yeah, and he goes into New World, and he's like, "What? Like, what even is that? Is that's what you're calling a story? Is this what you're calling gameplay?"
If New
Like-
World launched 10 years ago, I think it would have been a rousing success.
I think that you are being generous to your own age when you say 10 years,
Don't-
because 10 years ago was only 2011.
Now making
Like,
me feel old.
The level of complexity that I've seen in the way that game is pulled off, like it is just RuneScape with better graphics in terms of the actual level of thought and insight that's gone into its mechanical design.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, ultimately, Guild Wars 2 exists, and on a mechanical level, it's just better.
Honestly,
Like,
I would rather be playing Guild Wars 2 because Guild Wars 2 is
Yeah.
fun.
If I had to pick one or the other, like the world in Guild Wars 2 is just more vivid for starters. It's
It
more
does have
interesting.
Churn.
It does have Chahern, and that is a deep mark against it. However, you only have to deal with him for so long
Till he
because
dies
they eventually figured out that nobody likes Traherne.
and killed him off. So, yeah.
But I mean, Guild Wars 2 is about that, roughly that 10 years ago that you were talking about, and Guild Wars 2 is substantially better on a mechanical level.
Grief, yeah, Guild Wars 2 has actually been out for 10 years, hasn't it?
This is why I said you were being generous with your
Yeah.
age.
So,
And
yeah, Guild
So,
Wars
like,
2
I mean, if
exists.
if you're wanting to talk about the sort of the more action-oriented approach to combat, like Terra was better when Terra was better. It's not
Wildstar?
better now necessarily.
I think Wildstar did it better
Wildstar had a better approach. Secret World had a better approach as far as I'm concerned.
before
it
they
was a
ruined
hotkey
it.
MMO. Yeah. This is the story with a lot of these things though, is that it was good and then they ruined it.
Yeah.
It was good
But
when the normies came.
I can almost sympathize with them as far as Secret World is concerned, because number one, I believe the original version is still up.
It is.
You-
You can still go play it.
And number two, the game was basically dead as far as profits was concerned.
Yeah.
Like, they weren't making any money off of it. So Secret World came out before Guild Wars 2
Yes.
and is like blatantly better in every way than whatchamacallit,
New World.
than New World is. Like, I don't see any
It's-
comparison between the two. And you
it's-
can play it if you want in the action style, because they allow you the facility to do that.
Yeah. It's actually
doesn't
more
work that
accurate
well,
to
but-
say, because like comparing Guild Wars 2 now to New World isn't really fair. At launch, Guild Wars was better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could also go back a bit further and deepen the comparison a bit more. Like, I think it's about 12 or 13 years old now, but Age of Conan was basically the same thing.
That game's still up.
I have no idea.
Oh, it's the internet.
It was basically the same thing as New World, conceptually speaking. It had the same focus on action combat. It was the same sort of much more serious aesthetic, exploring sort of an untamed wilderness in a large part. Like, it was not. It was and also PvP focused.
It's still up.
They had heavy PvP focus. Like, basically, when I look at New World, all I'm seeing is ideas done before, done again, except without improvement.
Yeah. It just does not feel like they're claiming it to be the kind of the new wave MMO, but yeah, no.
No, but
That's
what is
just
new about
Am-
it though? What
Nothing.
part of it
That's-
is new?
All that appears to be is Amazon's marketing push. It doesn't seem to
Yeah.
reflect reality at all.
To be fair, the world is kind of poised for the new MMO idea at this point, and everyone's just kind
But-
of waiting for it.
Well, it's because
But you
nobody
gotta-
knows what that's going to look like. It'll be the
Exactly.
first person to invent something that is a paradigm shift away from collect 10 bear asses is basically what it's going to come down to.
Yeah, like they've
Because that's what the MMO experience has become synonymous with: collect 10 bear asses.
yeah,
like
like
the
I'm
previous
actually doing quests
generation-
right now, which is collect. Well, it's actually pig asses, but still close.
The previous generation of MMOs was the grind MMO, where quests they served particular purposes, which was to direct you along particular objectives, but they weren't the method through which you progressed through the game. You would find things and you would grind them. That was how you leveled up. That was the old paradigm. The paradigm that was more or less popularized by World of Warcraft is the current one still.
Yeah, it hasn't changed a whole lot in 15 years.
Yeah, the only really significant variation on it has been Final Fantasy XIV's extreme story focus. Like the story, everything else is secondary to the story. It's still got all the same bits and of skeleton behind it, but they've pasted this other piece over top, which has become their selling point, which is why they've been able to be popular in parallel.
Yeah, they also took that that whole system basically and polished it to a mirror shine.
Yeah, there's still things that people don't like about it and so on, but that's always going to be the case. But what we need is some...
Yeah, there's a few boondoggles they can never do anything about without a complete engine overhaul, because 1.0 was a thing.
Yeah, but there hasn't been anybody who's been able to devise a system that is radically different.
Like, even the big upcoming MMOs, like New World is... Okay, it's got the action combat, but it's not very well done. You've got... Ashes of Creation coming up, which has kind of the big open do whatever you want type world, but it is still a tab target MMO with the Titan Quest class system sort of put in there.
Yeah,
we saw that with Rift.
None of these things are significant variations. Like, as far as I'm concerned, like compared to New World, Terra was a bigger departure in terms of combat system.
Because it focused on the big fights.
It was properly action oriented and based around sort of like trying to stand between the conventional hotkey MMO and the Monster Hunter style combat.
Yeah, that's the probably the only real departure from the same system is the Korean MMO system, which has gone a different route, but it's very similar. Where it's instead of collect 10 bear asses, go out and get your own bear asses.
It has a lot of baggage though.
Oh, financial baggage particularly. A lot of them are very pay to win.
Yeah, and I don't really want to contemplate the idea of Black Desert becoming the norm.
No, and it won't be. There's a lot of actually overlap between New World and Black Desert. Like both games want the big player driven economy.
Yeah, the things that I don't like about both games are common to both games.
Yes. There is no pay to win in New World, at least not yet.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of time. Once people lose interest and they realize that they need to spin some more cash out of it, then they'll do something reckless and screw everything up for the people that are left.
Incidentally, actually, I haven't really looked too much at the cash shop. Let's have a look. So, let's see. Consumables. Dyes. Okay, that's good. So you've got dyes, you've got emotes, you've got armors. You've got the biggest one they're pushing at the moment, the Aegis of Providence, which is 1,300, whatever those things are. Let me see what the exchange rate is. Here we are, in Australian monies. I would need to spend, because they've got these whole the predefined values of monies. You know, the one that's always exploitative, no matter when it turns up.
Yeah, the Australian dollar value of lots.
Yeah, so I'd need to spend, if I wanted to buy that armor, not counting the freebie coins they gave me, I'd need to spend $30. And I'd have a bunch of tokens left over. If I wanted to buy one of the other ones, which are 10,000, 16,000, I can get 10,000, that's $15, and I can just buy one of those, which actually lines up, mostly. So it's like $15 for an armor skin, or $30 for one of the shiny ones. Incidentally, that's the Armor of Providence, and it looks awful. What's this other one? The 16,000 one look. Oh, that's even worse. So, they want you to pay money for really, really ugly armor. That's kind of Skyrim-y and generic. Viking-y.
Skyrim-y. You know, Fern, I've tried to find something to say about this game while you've been describing it, but Skyrim-y, I think, just solidifies everything you've said about this game makes me want to play it even less than I already did, which was already not going to touch this game unless my friends do.
Yeah. I have no words for whatever this costume is. It's like a green onesie pajamas.
The reality is that I could never imagine Ari playing a game like this simply because it's impossible to look pretty.
Yeah. Oh my. Oh, it gets worse. Okay. So that $15 would buy you one of the lower value armor sets, or one weapon skin for one weapon.
When you said that, I saw it in writing, except that you said one, and then in brackets the numeral one.
So yeah, so you can spend $15, and that's these two high ones. So 10,000 in money is $15 will get you a skin for the fire staff and the fire staff alone. At least the armor skins give you like a piece of equipment for each slot.
Wait, how much money for a skin for the fire staff?
$15.
Good gravy.
Let's see. That's weapon skins, housing items. If I want to buy a pirate decor bundle, which it's nothing actually really impactful. It's all I can put a cannon in my house. I can fill my house with cannons.
Seems like a productive use of your time.
I know.
I
Doesn't
hear
it?
that they banned the word Bezos for making character names.
Yeah, they did. Because there was everyone showing up with some variation of Jeff Bezos. Although I did see one guy running around earlier called Bin Chicken. So
I do feel like that's an indictment of the game, though, because it means that the game is not exciting or interesting enough to disentangle itself from the fact that it's Amazon.
yeah.
Bezos is
other things I've seen censored is China and Beijing have been censored.
What about Taiwan?
Probably.
If you can't even say China's stuff, there's no way you can mention Taiwan.
Well, the person who was actually talking about it was using China in terms of geography. He was just mentioning it as a geographical location. I forget what they were actually talking about, but yeah. That was the context he was using in, so I don't know. But yeah, you can't talk bad about Winnie the Pooh. So yeah, that's New World. I'm gonna at least try that first dungeon. After that,
yeah,
I'll decide whether or not I want to keep going. Because I could play this, or I could re-up Black Desert, and if I really hate myself, and play something I've already got time invested in, or I could play Guild Wars, or I could play Final Fantasy, depending on if I wanted the action or the story.
Or you could just play with us because you want friends.
Yeah, also that.
Because that's the real selling point in MMO.
Yeah, like I've got friends who are playing this game. I actually got two groups, and they're split across different servers, which is really annoying.
But how long will they last?
That is the big question. One group I think was going to last a while. The other, probably until the wind changes.
Yeah, because if it's as bad as you say, people will drop games surprisingly fast.
Oh, yeah. Once they get into a loop and realize they're bored, they'll jump off.
Yeah, like PSO22 is down to like 5,000 players.
Oh, yeah. It's because it's awful and there's no content. Like, everybody burned through that game in what? 5 hours?
Ball, what's your playtime?
In what?
PSO22.
Hold on, I need to look it up.
Mine's probably inaccurate.
Oh, actually, I don't know because I installed it on Steam. And Steam, we're talking PSO22. Hold on.
PSO22.
Is there a way to distinguish it?
No.
I don't think so, but I was thinking more just ballpark it.
Ballpark it.
Yeah, how many hours you dump into it?
Probably about 10 tops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're taking your time, about 10 hours.
Like, the thing is that I like mindless grind loops. I find them relaxing. But this was a little bit too far in the mindless grind direction. Like, I can endlessly grind incredibly dull things in Final Fantasy. That's how old school I managed to get my mining and my botany to 60.
You'd love
before
Eureka,
they made
then.
it easy. Huh?
You'd love Eureka. That whole section of the game is designed around that. Exactly that.
But the difference is that in Final Fantasy it's going somewhere.
Yeah, there's always a goal.
Yeah, there's a goal, there's a destination, there's stuff that you'll be able to accomplish once you're done. And it didn't seem that way to me in PSO2 too. It seemed like, oh, you grind so that you can be done grinding and then you stop playing.
Yeah, there's literally nothing to do in PSO2 too.
Yeah, like if you've got nothing to grind for, then why would you do it?
And the grinding gets you such a tiny amount of efficiency in kills that it's not even worth it.
Yeah.
Oh, bros.
So yeah, we should probably wrap up.
Yeah. So, it's a light week, folks. Next week, the TGS rumors will have either solidified or disappeared, and hopefully the news cycle goes back to normal with New World not eating everything. And we can pump out some real content for you instead of just tangenting on our thoughts on the general happenings.
Yeah.
So, all right. Closing comments, go.
I'm bored. I want to go
I'm
play
not-
Final Fantasy now.
I've got way too much Final Fantasy to play to be bored at this point.
There is
Yeah.
so much stuff I need to do in that game.
Oh, I should equip my new title. What's it called again? Let's see. Go to my achievements. Let's go to last 5.
It should be at the top.
Yep. Just screenshot this with my character in the frame and drop it in the live show chat so everybody can marvel at my ability to sit there and stare at the screen for a very, very, very long time.
Bask in your idleness. Let's see, what did you get? What's the actual title?
Oh, the mouse didn't hover. It's
No.
called of Dragon's Deep.
Actually, that's a pretty cool title.
I guess I'll equip it since it's the rarest title I got.
Yeah?
You'll have to stop being Confederate Aristotle.
Gentleman is still probably my favourite title. I got so many that, though, I'll probably pick a new one. I just like Gentleman.
Gentlemen.
Gentlemen. Oh, I did finish the Hildebrand quest, and like at the end of each chapter, they did a little silly dance where the prominent characters danced on a stage doing a really awful Hildebrand dance. But when you finish it, every major character is there doing it.
It's a Bollywood production.
No, not quite, but they do put the Warrior of Light front and center, so you too are joining in this stupid dance. Also, one last little thing before we do log out is I found the lost case, the 1.0 Hildebrand quest line. It was nothing notable special. It doesn't have the same ridiculous levels of silliness that the modern ones do, but it does answer a few questions. Namely, it's all Urianger's fault.
I see.
A lot of things are all Urianger's fault.
Yeah, he set Hildebrand on the path to become the Gentleman of Light. It was Urianger's fault that Hildebrand blew himself up and got flung up to the falling moon. It's also Urianger's fault that Hildebrand keeps waking you up in the morning during that quest line.
He probably had a prophecy about it.
He did.
Something.
He did his usual thing where he stands around spouting cryptic nonsense.
Well, it's not so much cryptic nonsense as wordy nonsense.
It was wordy cryptic nonsense.
No, his usually pretty cryptic. Like, he never actually comes right out and says what he means. He will talk around the topic, but he doesn't usually get to the point.
No.
And that actually causes a lot of problems.
Yeah. So yeah, there you go. If you wanted to know why Hildebrand, blame Urianger.
I like Urianger. He's best dad.
Yeah. So yeah, that's that.
So yeah, folks.
Let's get out
All
of here.
right. I'm going to go celebrate my fish catch and probably head to bed soon. So we'll see y'all next week. Sayonara. Bye-bye.